What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and tonight's the night that the NFL schedule is being released, and of course they have to make a 3-hour televised show out of it. If I'm being honest, this is the first time that I've ever watched the NFL schedule be released, because it just seems silly to me why you would have to have some whole orchestrated show just to tell everybody what the schedule is. But of course they have to make a thing out of it so people watch. I have it up in the background actually currently as of making this video because it's still going on. Just muted it or whatever because I wanted to take a look. Obviously the whole production is continuing currently, and they're going through each of the teams, looking at their schedules. They started the show off with all the primetime games. Of course, Dolphins fans are upset that the Dolphins don't have very many primetime games. There's no Sunday night football. I think there's like one Monday night, and we only had like a couple, like 2 or 3 altogether. Anyway, and then of course, you look at it, obviously it's a 17 game schedule. We are going to have a bye week late in the year, week 14. Real quick, before I get into all that though, I just want to say a couple things about, I'm not one of those people that looks at the schedule ever. It doesn't ever really matter what time of the year it is, except for the time that I figure the schedule matters the most is when you're actually in the season and you have an opponent coming up, right? Because you have to prepare for that opponent, and during the season is when you actually have your best idea of how good the teams are, especially because that's when you start to get injuries, etc., etc. So I never really overall I never really put too much weight into the schedule and strength of schedule and stuff like that, because there are a lot of other things, other factors like injuries, for example, that have a lot more swaying power on the result of games and the season, right? So, but it is an important factor and definitely one that you have to look at and take into consideration, and we will. I am going to go through each of these games. I just did a quick, look at them and a quick, what I think. Just win-loss, just at first glance kind of thing. Obviously, this will change as time goes on because we don't know how injuries are going to affect us, etc., or other teams and whatnot. So, there will be some changes and whatnot, but obviously, this will be my initial prediction, I guess, if you will. But anyway, and then one thing about the about strength of schedule that I wanted to mention, because I did I watch Dudley Do Wrong and K-Flex, and I watch their stuff. Occasionally I'll pop a video of theirs up every now and again, right? So I watched Doug's video, I think yesterday, and he mentioned something about strength of schedule. And so it's funny because one of the things that people are talking about is that the Dolphins have a super easy strength of schedule. And how do they get that? They get that based off of the win-loss records, the records of the teams last year, right? So they take your schedule, they find out what the win-loss record was from all of those teams, they add them up, and then based off of that cumulative, score or whatever, they rank all the 32 teams, and that's their strength of schedule. Well, the Dolphins have a top 5 easiest schedule. It's like 3 or 4, I think it is, right? So, and everybody's making a big deal about that and be like, oh, and that's adding to the hype of, oh, well, the Dolphins have no excuses. They need to get it done, blah, blah, blah. And they have to make it to the playoffs, etc. I want to temper people on that because it just, to me, I know people really well, and those kinds of things, when people get themselves like, overhyped, the disappointment is only that much greater if that disappointment comes. And in my life and in my experience, it seems to always come. So that's the expectation that I have personally, just in my experience of life. But then, when you look at all of, the details, all of the context and all of the information, in particular for, this franchise, this team. In my evaluation of that, I think it's going to be a little bit harder of a year than what people are expecting and hoping. And so if it doesn't go as well as people want it to, there could be some major shakeups at the end of the year, as I've been talking about for a while. But anyway, real quick, back to strength of schedule. And one of the things Doug mentioned is the strength of schedule last year, right? So last year, we started the season off with like one of the hardest strength of schedules, right? It was like, I don't know, third or fourth, something like that. It was one of the top, it was like a top 5 hardest schedules going into the season. But at the end of the season, and this is how it carries over, right, to this year, we have a top 5 easiest schedule. And I've been saying to people, for quite some time now, that the Dolphins weren't as good or didn't take as big a step forward as people think last season, as much as they were helped out and lucked out in some other ways because of other, factors, as I mentioned a million times, injuries, etc., and that they overachieved. And that is more evidence to that result, right, is the fact that at the end of the season, right, and it also plays to the point of, you can never really tell about, these things because you never know what the season is going to hold. At the beginning of the year, and that's the thing, right, is, we had a top 5 toughest schedule, and at the beginning of the year, I thought the Dolphins were going to win like 5 or 6 games maybe, right? Because I didn't think they were really all that good or really all that, advanced with the drafts that they had, etc., and I thought they were going to have a rough year again. But that was before we knew the effects, to the full extent, the effects of COVID and injuries, etc., and that definitely drastically changed the outcome of the season. And so, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take these kinds of things. That's why I said, like, I don't put I try not, for myself, I try not to put like a ton of emphasis on it because it really doesn't matter. Like because so many things can change even just week to week in the season, and it is a long season. So let's start actually getting into the details of this. So as I mentioned, we do have a late bye week. That's week 14. So that means we're going to have to play 13 straight games without... now, that can go a couple ways. I generally like to have my bye week kind of right in the middle. I like my season to be split by a bye week, but obviously you don't always get what you want. And, pretty much all of our games come front loaded. Now, depending on how you look at it and depending on how the season progresses, it could be, good or bad, right? So, for example, it could be bad if, we play, let's say we play 5 or 6 games and we're actually doing pretty good. Let's say we're, 3-2 or whatever, 3-3 through the first 6 games, right? And we're actually doing pretty good, but we start stacking up some injuries and, we have another, that's like 7 games to go before we have our bye week. My point is, without rest earlier on, injuries could start to pile up and it could, derail a season and the bye week could be too late. Or it could also give you an opportunity to get some guys back. It also depends on what the record is at the time. Are we looking to make a push into the playoffs? What is our status there? Does it give us an opportunity to get some guys back to make a push? Are we already eliminated because, we didn't perform well or because injuries stacked up or whatever, etc. So there are some obviously notable differences with the season. Just quick side note. So, I do still personally expect COVID to be a factor. I can't imagine that it won't be, especially since they intend to pack stadiums. But that is also one of the differences. But anyway, so with the season basically going on as normal, we expect them to have live training camps. So one of the major differences from this season to last season, you would think theoretically, is that you should have less overall injuries. With the statistics about, concussions or whatever went down by 30%, and whatever the other injury statistic was that went down by like 20 something percent. Those will probably go up again because they're actually going to be in live, training camps and hitting each other again. So those probably will go up. But I would think overall, logically, the overall number of injuries throughout the season should go down. And, if they don't ever shut down, now we'll see. I mean, if they have outbreaks, then they would have to shut down, facilities. But if they don't have to shut down facilities, if they get a full, off season, then you would think theoretically there will be less injuries. That's one way in which the season can be very different from last year. Also, they do expect to pack stadiums, and I think this is one way in which Tua in particular is going to be very much tested, and his super young offensive line. Because last year, they didn't have to deal with the crowd noise. This year, at least to begin with packed stadiums, they're going to have to deal with the crowd noise. And so I think that could be very problematic. And, we'll obviously have to wait and see. So, and before I actually go through all of these games and when they are, which I'm about to do here in a minute, one other point of emphasis is we do actually have a game in London again this year, which we are technically the away team for, so we don't have to give up a home game, which is good. I mean, it's a London game, so it's tough on both teams. You got to travel all the way over there, etc., etc. The Dolphins historically have had mixed results, but overall haven't fared too well. But we do play, and it's against the Jags and presumably Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see how that goes. Also, excuse me, another point of interest, though, it's looking like we're not going to have to go up north for too many cold winter games. So that is also good. But at the same time, some of those, up north opponents won't have to necessarily come down to Miami for the heat. So there is that trade-off. But anyway, okay, so let's get into the actual schedule. So our first game of the season begins against the New England Patriots. It is in Gillette Stadium. It's on September 12th at 4:25 p.m. All these times are going to be Eastern time. So for me, it's 1:25 p.m. And so it's an away game for us. We don't have our home opener until the next week. But the first game is against the Patriots, September 12th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. It is in Gillette Stadium. Obviously, so, with the Patriots, division rival, we have to play in their stadium. Obviously, Brady's not there. Belichick is. I do expect them to have at least a few pieces like Patrick Chung or whatever coming back on that defense. So I do expect their defense to be bolstered. I personally think that Newton will start. It is possible, though. You never know. And maybe Belichick, decides to put Mac Jones in. But and that will be interesting for sure. I would think that with Mac Jones, the Dolphins probably would have a little bit better, would definitely have a better chance to win the game, because he's a rookie, he's got to adjust, etc., etc. And I think, but I honestly don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're at least going to start Newton at the beginning of the year. They signed him to another 1-year deal. He already knows the offense. He's a veteran, etc., etc. And I think he probably does give them the best opportunity to win, at least to start. If something happens, then maybe Mac Jones goes in later in the year, or maybe if he, really starts taking off, maybe they make a switch at some point. But I think in that game, for sure. And for the purposes here, because we just don't know how things are going to turn out down the line. I mean, the beginning of the season is still 4 months away. So for the purposes here, even in our game against the Patriots in the at the end of the year, I'm still going to say it's going to be Cam Newton just for this, because you just don't really know. But anyway, that game, I am going to say that we lose it because, again, we're going to be in Gillette Stadium, so that's obviously tough. We're going up against Bill Belichick and a rival in the AFC East. There's going to be the crowd noise, so so the stands are going to be full, and that's I think going to be tough. And, so real quick, let me give you my overall record. I think they're going to go 6-11. I know Dolphins fans are going to hate me for that, and they're going to be like, you're so negative and you suck, blah, 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 whatever. It is what it is. I don't really think that they're a 10-win team. I don't think they were as good as people think they were last year. I don't think that they're making as much progress as people hope, as much as I hope and want them to be. And, a lot of that has to come down to, like what Brian Flores said, right? Obviously in reality, a lot of the responsibility is on him as not only the head coach, but a guy who has a lot of say in, the guys that are brought in and the drafts and the, et cetera, right? So, it's on these players, and it's on the players that they drafted, right? So they've already cut 3 players from their first 2 drafts, and so far, there's really nobody that you can say is a stud. I don't really, or like a Pro Bowl player. We hope Tua is going to be that. We hope Jalen Waddle and Jalen Phillips will be that. But, I have serious concerns. I don't think that they prioritize properly. I think that they reach for players. I think they are terrible at trades. I think they're terrible at player evaluation and development. I don't think they're really good at much of anything. That's my perspective. We're going to know for sure this season, though, because the expectations are super high, right? And I promise, even if, we go through this season and Stephen Ross gives them another year, he's not going to give them too much time to figure it out. He's getting old. He's getting super desperate. And he's going to want to have people that he feels are going to be able to do it. And his MO is every 3 to 3.5 years, change things if they don't, if the guys that I hired are not getting it done. So we'll see. But anyway, so, and I'm not convinced. I think that, but look, at the end of the day, if they can go, I've seen a lot of Dolphins fans are predicting, 11 wins, 12 wins. Somebody said 13. Another person said 14. I mean, look, bro, if we can do that, then by all fucking means, I hope so. That's what I want. I want my team to be, at the top of the league. But I gotta be honest, I don't see it. And so, the way to change that is you have to prove it this year. Because look, at the end of the day, for me, I don't think they're actually that good. I don't think this organization knows how to build a team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe that they are going in the right direction. I don't trust the process just simply because they tell me to trust the process. No, I look at all the things myself and I make a determination myself. And I disagree with almost everything that they've done, right? But I am a person who bases my views in facts and data. So look, if they go, 10, 11, 12 wins, I mean, it is what it is, right? I can't be like, oh, they didn't win 12 games. And so look, that's the way, but to do that, they are going to have to, Tua's going to have to take strides, right? That offensive line is going to have to take strides. The run game is going to have to pick up. The defense cannot fall off. I think the defense is going to take steps backwards because of the key pieces that they're losing and might even still lose going forward. Right? So, and I didn't think they were all that good to begin with, right? That's my evaluation. So you prove me wrong by not taking steps back on the defense and taking big steps forward on the offense. And Tua, not getting hurt. Jalen Phillips not getting hurt, right? And them having stellar fucking, games, blah, 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 right? That's how you prove me wrong. Anyway, like I said, I think the first game of the season against the Patriots on September 12th, that's going to be a loss. I think that they are going to have the edge there. I think it's going to be a bit tough. Their defense is going to get bolstered. I think their offensive attack will improve from where it was last year. And I think it's going to be tough playing in Gillette Stadium for Tua, first game of the season. With all the, crowd noise and being, will he be able to make checks at the line and so on and so forth. He's got a super young line. Are they going to be able to hang and make their adjustments properly when he's calling stuff out to him, etc. All right, then we have our home opener. Let's start breezing through this against the Bills. That's September 19th. That's a 1 p.m. Eastern game. I'm just going to say this right off the bat. I have us losing to the Bills both times. I do have us splitting with the Jets and the Patriots. I know everybody's going to be like, oh, well, we should sweep the Jets for sure. I think the Jets are going to surprise people a little bit, and I think that they're going to play better than what, people are expecting. And I am going to say that we split with them. With the Bills, though, until they beat the Bills, until this roster proves that they can hang with the Bills, then now, they did lose some key pieces on defense. They got some really good pieces, though, for that defense in the draft. So, theoretically, they have compensated at least for some of it. So, we'll see. But that is a home game for us. That is our home opener. So we will, have home field advantage. And they will have to play in the September heat. So, it could go in our favor. That is definitely a game, though, that, if they want to prove that they are going to be, a lot of these games really are. Because, again, at the end of the day, if they want to be taken seriously and, et cetera, if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to win 10 plus games. I don't know exactly what it's going to have to take. It might even take 11 or 12 games, to be honest. But, the playoff field is still expanded with 7 teams in each conference. So they'll have to win, I would think, at least 10 games to make it into the playoffs. I suppose 9 is possible, but after winning 10 games last season, I don't think anybody wants to see them lose more games than they did last season, especially because then that would, if we only had 9 wins, that would actually put us at 10 losses with the additional game this season. And I don't think people want to see a 9-10 season. I think they would be very disappointed with that. And so they got to win 10 plus games and make it to the playoffs. This would be a game to really, especially early on in the season, show, hey, look, we're, we are actually taking steps forward and we're here to fucking play. But I am going to say as of right now, that's going to be a loss. So that's 0-2 to start the season. Then we go to Las Vegas. So I'm just going to start breezing through these real quick. I'm not going to say too much. I think that's going to be another tough road game for the Dolphins. I think they'll lose that against the Raiders September 26th. That is a 4:05 p.m. game. Then after that, we have a home game against the Colts on October 3rd at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. That could prove to be a really tough game, and that could be a loss. They just got Carson Wentz, and they have some weapons, and their defense is not terrible. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to go too much into this right now because it's super early, but I am calling that a win for the Dolphins. It is a home game. We will have home field advantage. So that is where I'm calling our first win. So we go 3 losses before we get our first win. So that's 1-3. Then we play the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's a road game. I'm sorry, but that's going to be a loss, Dolphins fans. So that has us at 1-4. Then we're going to go play the Jags overseas. And this is going to be tough because this is the 6th game of the season. And then we have another 7 games before the bye week. This could be really tough on the team, especially a young team that's not going to be, experienced with this kind of stuff. And they're going to have to travel far. They're going to have to go overseas. So that could be tough. But I am calling that a loss for the Dolphins. So that has us at 1-5. Then we go back home to play the Falcons. I'm also going to call that a loss. Then an away game up to Buffalo. That is also a loss in my books as of right now. Then we go back home to play the Texans. I'm going to call that a W for us. A win for the Dolphins. Then we play the Ravens. That's another home game for us, but the Ravens are a really tough team, and I think that they're definitely going to be the better team. And so I'm going to call that a win for the Ravens, a loss for us. Then we play, so like I said, I think that the Jets are going to surprise people a little bit, and I am having a split with the Jets. So on November 21st, real quick, let me just back up just for a second. So we play the Colts on October 3rd, the Tampa Bay Bucks on October 10th at 1 p.m., the Jags October 17th in London at 9:30 a.m. That's super fucking early for me. October 24th at 1 p.m. is the Falcons. That's a home game for us. October 31st at 1 p.m. is Buffalo in Buffalo. Then November 7th at 1 p.m. is home game against the Texans. Then November 11th is our home game. That's a Thursday night football game, 8:20 p.m. So Thursday night football, November 11th. So that will be interesting. And look, the Dolphins, again, if they wanted to, show the league that they're here, and they're, because some people are saying, man, the fucking rebuild is over and the Dolphins are contenders and stuff. Well, that's another game, a nationally televised game against a really tough team. If they want to show that they're here to play and here to stay, that would be a game to win as well. And then November 21st, 1 p.m. against the Jets. That's an away game. I'm going to have them winning that because, like I said, I think they're going to surprise people a little bit. And I think we'll split with them. Then we go back home November 28th, 1 p.m. game to play the Panthers. I'm going to call that a dub for the Dolphins, followed by another dub for the Dolphins, which is going to be against the New York Giants at 1 p.m. December 5th. And all of that is before the bye week. So before the bye week, we are, let's see, according to my calculations, 4 and 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 4 and 9 on the season. Then we have our bye week, week 14. And then, but after the bye week, I have us going 2 and 2. And so putting us at 6 and 11. Because then after the bye week, December 18th or 19th, that is to be determined. As is the time. It's a home game for us against the Jets. I think we will win that one. Then an away game against the Saints, December 27th. That's a Monday night football game. They obviously don't have Drew Brees anymore, so the quarterback situation is going to be interesting. But that is an away game for us. They do have a good team overall, and I think it's going to be tough. Again, a Monday night football game, another nationally televised game. So, if they want to show the league, there's another good game to do it in. I'm going to call that, though, a loss for the Dolphins. Then after that, on January 2nd at 1 p.m., we play the Titans. So that's going to be a really interesting game at the very end of the season. It'll be us versus the Titans and Ryan Tannehill. I am going to call that a loss for the Dolphins. And then we end with a home game on January 9th at 1 p.m. against the Patriots that I'm going to call a win. So we will end the season at least on a high note and get a dub over the New England Patriots. Who knows? Maybe Mac Jones will be in at that time, and we'll be able to see Tua versus Mac Jones. Because I know people are going to be interested. I don't think that we're going to get that in the first game. I really do think Newton is going to end up starting. So if that happens, I think it will likely be the last game of the season. And, who knows? Maybe they could be going for the playoffs, pushing for the playoffs, or in the playoffs, and, rest Newton and put him in. Or maybe Newton at some point gets injured throughout the season and he's in. Or maybe they just want to play him. Who knows? So yeah, there's that. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be grueling season. And this is a very young, inexperienced team overall, with, a lot of changes in the coaching staff yet again this offseason. They're going to have dual offensive coordinators. And look, there is going to be a lot riding on this season, and these guys have to really take major steps forward. Again, no matter what you think, even if you think that they are Super Bowl contenders and, you know, they're ready to fucking start vigorously, you know, consistently, challenging for the AFC East, and, you know, we're really going to show the Bills and blah, blah, blah. Like, if you think all of that, cool, you know, more power to you, I guess, and I hope that's what ends up being the case. But you know, I find it hard to imagine that people look at last year and at least don't acknowledge the fact that they overachieved. And you know, like I said, I hope it turns out more like everybody else, but for my evaluation of how this team has been built and the philosophies behind it and so on and so forth, I don't think that it's going to pan out how people want, how I want, and how I hope that it would go. You know, I mean, I would love to see us go undefeated, right? You go undefeated, then it's unquestionable. I mean, there'd be no way I could even fabricate a way to say, I mean, sure, you know, you could point out, you know, flaws, maybe, you know, some minor flaws here in certain games, but if they went undefeated, I mean, it's pretty, that's a tough thing to do. So, you know, they're going to get credit for whatever they put on the field, and I'm going to give it to you guys honest and exactly how I see it based off of all of the data, not just cherry-picked information that, you know, fits a narrative just because that's what I want it to be. I'm going to give it to you like it is, whether I like it or not. I don't like seeing my team be shit, and I don't want them to be shit, and I don't like, you know, projecting them to be shit. But unfortunately, again, I don't agree with how this team's being built and the direction they're going. So that's how I see it. Anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here. That is the schedule. I did want to make a video and get that out to you guys. And so it is going to be interesting, though. I am excited. I do plan to do, you know, live streams for the games and so on and so forth. You know, and I'm going to be clear right off the bat about something. You know, I'm never going to be excited about my team losing. I've been a Dolphins fan as long as I've been a football fan, and I will never, ever be excited about them losing. But look, man, if I am right, I'm going to own that too, because I got to be confident in me, and I got to be confident in, you know, my ability to evaluate and so on and so forth. Look, if I make mistakes and if I'm wrong about things, I admit to it. Right? I didn't think the Patriots. I didn't think the Bucs were going to make it to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. I was wrong, right? There are things I'm wrong about, and I can admit it. But I'm not going to let people shame me into, you know, feeling bad or anything for owning the fact that I'm right about things if and when I am right about things. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, and I want them to have a spectacular season. No matter what, I am eager and anxious to see how it plays out. Especially because, again, I really do fundamentally believe that this is going to be a make it or break it year. And I want to see which side of that they come out on when it's all said and done. All right, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.